legislation on copyright in this country, which is Act 690. Now, under the Copyright Act, the works are defined as literary work, artistic work, musical work, audiovisual work, choreographic work, computer software, or programs. So you have all these falling under work. So these are things which fall under copyright.
So anybody who creates or comes up with any of these things that fall under copyright would be said to be the owner of that work?
The author.
The author
is known as the author of that work.
Okay, so is there anything you must do to be recognized as the author of that work, or the fact that you just came up with that concept or created it, automatically you are the owner or the rightful author?
Well, in order to establish your legal rights over that work, you need to take steps to register the work. And with that, you do it with a registrar general. They have a special session or department dedicated to registering copyright work.
Okay, so you can't just sit at home and say that this particular book or music or whatever belongs to me because I came up with it. It must be registered.
It must be registered.
If not, then
you run the risk of competing with other people who may come up to say that, hey, look, you did yours all right, but you didn't register it, but I have done mine, I registered mine.
Okay, well, what is the process to go about registering it? Is it very tedious? Is there any kind of requirement, or just present whatever creation that you have?
Yes, there are some requirements by law. Administratively, you have to pick up the necessary forms from the Registrar General's department and then fill them and pay the statutory fees to have your work.
Is it very expensive?
It depends. However, the law requires that for you to be able to register your work, first of all, the work ought to be original in character.
What does that mean? That is
the original, as in it is. Permit me to be a bit legal here. Sui generis, in that
but
it
you
should be.
Have to break it down.
Sui generis in the sense that it should be one of a kind. Okay, it should be original from your own.
You shouldn't have copied it from
exactly.
someone.
It shouldn't have been copied. It should be from your own individual effort, or you could have joint authors as well. So it should be as a result of the combined efforts of yourself or whoever. Two or more people.
But what if two or more people have the same idea?
Well, if two or more people,
that's possible, isn't it?
What you need to understand, or what we need to understand, is that ideas are excluded from copyright. Ideas, concepts.
So you cannot register an idea.
That falls under patents.
Okay.
And there is a separate legislation for that. There is a Patents Act for that. So that falls under patents. So with copyright, the law recognizes these categories: literary work, musical work, choreographic work, computer software, visual. Those things are copyright works.
Okay. So the author or the person who came up with the original work is the one known as the author.
Exactly.
I mean, it is the one known as the original owner or the author of that particular work. Okay.
But there are also situations where, let's say, you are in the employment of someone, or you've been commissioned to do the work. You may be the author, all right, but you may not own the copyright in the work.
Even though you created it.
Under what circumstances? The law says that unless there is a contrary intention evinced by, let's say, a contract or an agreement between you and the employer.
Okay.
What happens is, if you're an employee
or who created the work for the business or the company.
So if you were commissioned to do the work, you do not own the copyright in that work. It belongs to the company employer. And also in public, let's say state organizations or public institutions, the law says that if you do a work as a public official, what happens is that the copyright in that work vests in the president on behalf of the people of Ghana. So the president is a form of a trustee who holds the copyright in that work on behalf of the people of Ghana.
Okay. What kind of rights would you have as a copyright owner?
Well, there are basically two rights recognized by law. These are the economic rights and then the moral rights.
Okay.
The economic rights encompass the the right to reproduce or to, let's say, make money out of your work. Okay, basically.
Which is as of right.
Exactly, because it's your work, it's your intellectual property. And the moral right is your right to prevent your work to be used in a way or format that you do not subscribe to. Let's say it's being used to do something immoral, or you do not conform with those practices. You can you can exercise your moral right with respect to your work, your copyright work.
Now, I know that a huge problem here in Ghana, especially when it comes to music, a lot of time you hear artists or musicians complaining that their songs or their works are being used without their consent and so on and so forth. How does this come in with copyright issues? Can people just take other people's works and music and things and use it as a background to their shows, or just, to play on their airwaves? What kind of permission or do you need to be able to use people's work in this regard?
Well, when you are using the work for, let's say, to gain financial profits, what happens is that you need to recognize the author of the work. Now, as I said, if you're an author of the work, you have economic rights. Now, if you as a user, if you bought the work and you are using it in the ordinary course of things, you don't you are not liable for any breach.
When you say copyright. Ordinary things, what do
let's say you buy a computer program, software, and you install it on your machine, you install it on another person's machine. This is the ordinary use of this. Or let's say you want to just reproduce that computer disk or program for storage in case the original one that you bought gets missing.
That is okay.
That is okay. But where you make mass production and sell it, that is a breach of the copyright, and so the author can sue you for that. Indeed, I'm currently doing a case where an artist has sued a telecommunications company for using his music without his consent as a ringtone on their phones.
Okay, is it very common? Do you see a lot of such cases
in the courts here?
A lot of people bringing such issues to court?
There are not much cases regarding copyright law. I think the reason is that people are not aware of their economic and moral rights
when it comes to their intellectual property.
Exactly, that is so.
So they don't know what kind of what they can or cannot do when it comes to the works that they have created. Exactly. People are just not aware.
I think the level of awareness is very low. It's very low, and so there's the
That's
need.
how you find people infringing on people's copyrights.
And so I think that there's a need for sensitization and education on the copyright, specifically intellectual property as a whole.
Okay. What is the punishment for infringing
well, it is not a crime.
It's not a crime?
It's not a crime. It is a civil, it amounts to a civil wrong. Okay. And therefore, the author or whoever owns the economic rights or the moral rights in the work can sue for compensation for the breach of that.
So there's nothing like a prison term or a fine or anything like that?
It's a civil wrong.
Okay, so basically you just compensate the person for whatever
in monetary value.
All right. So also a lot of times we talk about licensing when it comes to copyright and intellectual property. What does that mean?
Well, licensing is simply giving another person the authority to use your work, your copyright work, in a specific way. Now, the law says that licensing can be oral or even can be inferred from conduct. If you look at the Copyright Act, it could be inferred from conduct. And
what kind of conduct? Give us an example.
Let's say the work has been used before and you saw it, you consented to it by not raising any objections to it. That is, by inference, by your conduct, you've given permission for it to be used.
And then, of course, there's express. You're given of express permission.
Yes, and that one you can also do it orally or by agreement.
Okay. And is there a time limit or a time frame when it comes to licensing?
Well, it depends on the agreement between the two people.
Okay. And what about economic rights? Can you transfer your economic rights?
Yes, you can. You can transfer economic rights. You can do so by agreement, that is by contract, by assignment, by testamentary disposition, and then also by operation of law. By assignment, in that usual contract, you take an artist, for instance, and then you sign an agreement that, look, I'm going to give you the opportunity to use this, that. Now, by testamentary disposition, what it means is that if you are the copyright owner or the author of the work, what you can do is you can make a testamentary disposition in a will, for instance, to say that, look, upon my death, the economic rights in this book or in this work or this artistic work should go to this person or these persons or what have you. And by operation of law, what we mean is that let's say the person who owns the copyright dies intestate. Now you know that the estate of that person comprises both the tangible and intangible things. Tangible in that cars and what have you, intangible such as copyright. Okay, so by operation of law, that is PNDC law 111, that copyright can be devolved onto a beneficiary of the person's estate.
All right. Another issue when it comes to intellectual property is plagiarism. A lot of people, you find people having problems because they feel that maybe someone has copied their work and so on and so forth. What kind of redress can one get if they feel that somebody has copied their work, especially if they have not registered it?
Yes, so long as you are an author of the work, you have a moral right in the work.
Okay.
And so you can restrict,
even if you haven't registered
it. So,
but how do we know who came up with it first?
The work?
Yes.
Well, it will tell. The timelines will tell.
Okay. Maybe you did whatever, you took some steps, maybe you published something or you did something.
And always, that's why with works there are dates.
Okay.
So definitely you would know that I did mine in, let's say, 10 years ago. You are doing yours now.
Even though you haven't registered it.
Exactly.
Okay, so then from there, I guess it would be pragmatic for you to take steps to
do that.
Okay, what about
plagiarism? Is an offense.
Okay.
It's an offense.
So that one carries a prison term?
I have not come across the criminal legislation on plagiarism in Ghana, but elsewhere it is an offense.
Okay, so that's a more serious offense.
Exactly.
Okay, what about if the work is registered?
With registration, it gives you all the rights and the protection under the law. Now, the interesting thing with registration is that once you register the work, Ghana is a signatory to several international treaties on intellectual property. Now, per those treaties, if you have a copyright work in Ghana and you register it here in Ghana, what it means is that automatically you have protection in all member states.
Okay.
In all member states. So when you enter into another country, another member state who is a signatory to the treaty, you automatically enjoy all the protection under the law.
What about journalists, or let me say media people? Can they use people's works without permission?
Well, the law gives room for permissive use. Permissive use, let's say you are using it for public education. You are using it for public education, broadcast work.
That's fine. So as long as you are not gaining or benefiting money in terms of monetary.
So if it's for public education,
then that is fine. Okay. As a country, finally, how can we benefit, or how can we gain if we promote intellectual property?
Well, what we can gain is primarily through taxation, in that copyrights give right to economic benefits, and therefore if we are able to as it were regulate that sector very well, what it means is that we would be honing our tax revenue from that area very well as well.
So would you advise people to register their works?
Oh yes, I will, because it gives you a lot of protection under the law, and not only in Ghana but elsewhere that Ghana has signed international treaties with those countries.
And it comes with a lot of monetary benefits as well.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Nana Kwesi Ewa is a legal practitioner, and he joined us this morning to educate us some more on intellectual property rights. Thank you so much once again for your time.